family, and friends. We find our way into the sanctuary at Beth Israel because we have so much to remember. Even as the Jewish community has entered the Jewish New Year with hopes for sweetness, it might not be that way for our dear Joel, but we bring with us so much sweetness, so much love from a life well lived. And so our time here is to appreciate the life that was given and all that we can recall together through words and psalms and music. Our hearts will be touched, we will be moved to remember all that Joel prized and all that we must continue to do and to be. As we prepare for this time together, please take a moment to be sure that your cell phone is in a silent position so that we won't be disturbed by it. And as you do, I would like to invite Cantor Feibusch to share with us a psalm of consolation.
Hey thee, shelo yigamer leolam, hachol v'hayam, lishu shel hamayim, shel hamayim be'rak hashamayim tfilat hadam. O God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
Death has taken our dearest Joel Androphy. And in a world that is darkened around us, we grieve. In our silence, we are sad, and our tears do flow. When we feel alone and lost in our sorrow, that we always find the presence of dearest friends and family. God, hear us this day and be with us. For Joel's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever, for his companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of his heart and mind that brought us so much joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. In this time of grief and memory, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures. They bring us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It tells us of our kinship with the Creator, in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. I'm so pleased to invite Reverend Harvey Clemens, to share a psalm and words with us today.
Good morning to you. On your program is Psalm 23. You're invited to read along with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. Isn't that comforting? To know that as we stand in the shadow of death, we have the promise of God being with us, and that he will keep us even from time to eternity. I want to thank Rabbi Steve Groves. He invited me, I don't know if he knew what he was doing, but he invited me to speak at a Yom Kippur service. And as I was speaking, and you might can tell that I'm a Black Baptist Christian. I don't know how. But as I was speaking and was talking, it came there and we was talking about service and talking about the idea of doing service. And little did I know that this well-dressed, suave guy would come up to me after the service and says, I'm interested in your program about juvenile diversion. I'm interested in what it is that you all are doing. I was familiar with him because I had seen him on Channel 13 as a legal analyst. And he said, I would like to do pro bono legal service for the young people in your community that are underrepresented. Little did I know that that conversation would turn into a friendship. I got a chance to meet his children, to meet his lovely wife, and I want to thank you all for giving me the privilege to take this journey with you over these recent months. You've proven to be a great friend to me. Now, Joel was driven. Those of you who know him know that he is like a pit bull. Once he locks his jaws onto something, it's hard to get him to shake it loose. And I think that's what made him such a great defense attorney, is because he fought. And he fought for people whether they had the dollars to pay him or whether they did not. I must conclude, but some of my favorite moments was on the golf course with him. I thought that we were going on the golf course to play golf and to enjoy and to relax. 18 holes of talking about how can we do something better for these young people in this community. And by the way, the first, before you got on the hole, was about the children, about the grandchildren, and about the family. We have been blessed because of Joel. Thank you so very much, David. I appreciate your leadership.
as we continue to hear the different sides of Joel, and we appreciate the rich, meaningful beginning that you've offered us, Harvey. There's a beautiful poem that invites us into these words and these memories. It's called, in English, Each Man Has a Name. Each man has a name given by God and given by his parents. Each man has a name given by his stature and his smile and given by what he wears. Each man has a name given by the mountains and given by his walls. Each man has a name given by the stars and given by his neighbors. Each man has a name given by his sins and given by his longing. Each man has a name given by his enemies and given by his love. Each man has a name given by his celebrations and given by his work. Each man has a name given by the seasons and given by his blindness. Each man has a name given him by the ocean and given by his death. As we remember him in all these ways, I'd like to continue by inviting his son Daniel and daughter Robin to come together to share their words.
Hi, Daddy. It's me, your baby girl. I just wanted to take a minute and look around the room. This is for you, Daddy. This is a legacy you're leaving and the incredible life you lead and touch so many lives. This room is filled with love from all the walks of life, and I know there are even more that wish they could be here today to celebrate you. Thanks, technology, for allowing them to stream this special service to be with you as well. I can't believe I only have a few minutes to talk about the most incredible man, but like I always have for the last 36 years of my life, I will try my best, like you always told us, and hope to make you proud. Daddy, you are and will forever be my hero. You and I were one and the same in a lot of ways. We shared a love for fashion, sorry I'm wearing black, fitness, eating healthy, seeking out adventures, sports, and above all else, family. You were always my biggest supporter and #1 cheerleader. You always took off to watch my gymnastics meets, Lamar's softball, volleyball games, and loved doing karate with me. You'd be so proud of me for sparring and dominating all the girls in karate tournaments. You always listened intently to everything I said, no matter how big or how small, and would go the extra mile to always deliver the best. One thing that stands out in my mind was taking surf lessons in California. I had briefly mentioned it the night before, and you spent the evening finding the best instructor, and we got to share learning to surf together. You took this approach for any time I wanted to try something new and used it as an opportunity to spend time with me. For that, I will always be grateful. Although my stint at golf was short-lived, I'm taking it on again with lessons to stay connected with you. I will give it my all. Some highlights from my earlier years include my 18th birthday, where you took me to a club in Acapulco and I danced on the bar. When you took me to college and you pointed out the library where you assumed I would be spending 3 to 4 hours a day, oops. And especially getting the chance to travel the world and create lasting memories together. You didn't wait until you retired to take those trips. You wanted to do it all as a family. Your eye for art on our travels was next level, and I always knew who to call for an opinion on any art piece. My relationship with you is one that I will never take for granted. You molded Daniel and I into the people we are today. You taught us what it is You taught us what it means to be a good and loving person and to always stand up for yourself and fight for what we wanted. You have always been the definition of a family man. You took every opportunity to connect and build experiences together. Between Texans games and morning ab workouts, your special bond with Chris means everything to me. Our special time together through sporting events will be carried on through my boys. Landon got to attend his first Texans game with you, and we were able to take Bo together as well. Landon and Chris also got the privilege of golfing with you every Sunday, and Bo loved getting to tag along to ride in the cart. They will forever cherish those special mornings at Lochinvar, golfing and looking for Whitey, a white eager that they always saw on the golf course. We will always look for Whitey on any golf course now. Your grandkids were your pride and joy, and I know they will carry you with them forever. No matter how busy you were in the courtroom, you always made it a priority to stop what you were doing, to come over and read the boys, one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. Although you were forced to be reckoned with in the courtroom, you were the ultimate teddy bear with the grandkids. Sorry, the secret's out. As Chris has said many times, you lived every single minute of every single day with purpose. There was not a moment wasted. Every moment had an intention, mission, and purpose. This is such an admirable quality and one I hope that I can try to take on and pass through my children. There are so many other qualities that I loved about you, and I hope that my boys can carry on. Like how you always served others for the sole purpose of doing the right thing and not for any type of recognition. Your drive, your work ethic, and your abs, but maybe not your dance moves. Losing you has been the most excruciating pain that I've ever experienced. I would give anything to hold your hand once more, or run over to the house to share a funny story with you and get a classic thumbs up, or just get your advice one more time. This past year has been so hard watching my hero battle this horrible disease. ALS took away so much from you, but it never changed who you were in your core. You fought with everything you had until the bitter end. You still made the effort to attend your grandchildren's sporting games, even when you were forced to use a walker or become wheelchair bound. You lit up when your grandchildren were around, and when you had lost the ability to speak, and you even gave in and had a chocolate milkshake after years of steamed veggies and 6 shrimp. I will cherish these precious moments that we got to spend together during otherwise dark time. Always find the silver lining. In the last hours of your life, you found the strength to kiss my cheek after months of it being immobile. I will carry that with me for the rest of my life. Thank you for that gift. Daddy, you are impossible to sum up. We would be here all day if I had the opportunity to share all the wonderful things that you did, accomplished, and the legacy that you built. Your impact was immeasurable, not just for your family, but all of your friends, the legal community, and every person that you met along the way. We love you forever, Gramps. Love your little litigator.
Well, he clearly picked the nicest casket you could buy. But he chose it, so we'll give him credit for that. All right, here we go. This should be 4 minutes. As I approach my 40th birthday in a couple months, there's one thing I've needed most that my dad was able to provide me this week, is extra Rogaine. I went up there and took it last night. See, this stuff's expensive. It's great to see family and friends here today to celebrate his life. Thank you for being here. A very close friend of mine texted me a couple days ago to offer his condolences to the family. He then proceeded to tell me that my dad single-handedly inspired him to become a lawyer. I'm not quite sure what those inspirational words of wisdom were, but I've come to realize that my dad was much more than just a father to me. He was somewhat significant to many. The amount of respect he has in the legal field and local community is unparalleled. Every time someone has asked me about his diagnosis, I've had the privilege of learning about his impact on the community and what he's done for his clients, what a good friend he was, and why nobody ever wanted to go up against him in a case. My dad was always close to my friends growing up. I'm sure if I called them up here today, they would all have a good Joel story. I never will forget telling my friend, I'll leave him nameless, to stop. He told my friend, Marshall, I'll just let it out, to stop crying, get on the bus, we left to go to camp. He just walked up and was like, hey dude, get on the bus, stop crying. But there's plenty of stories you can ask me later. My dad compassionately felt a responsibility to be a dad to my buddies, which gave us all both fear and comfort. My dad had a significant influence on my life. I spent my life working to make him proud. I think the one thing I didn't fulfill for him is the firm Berg, Androphy, and Son. But little did he know, it saved us a lot of headaches, which allowed us to have a more enjoyable time on the golf course on the weekends. I know I always had his support growing up, which helped me become the best student, athlete, colleague, friend, father, and husband I can while navigating life's challenges. My dad had a profound impact on my dedication to my family, career, and athletic endeavors over the years. We spent countless hours fielding ground balls at the Westview Little League fields, where Jade and Cooper now play. I also have fond memories of our 5 years at Young Brothers Taekwondo, working hard to achieve the highest honor in martial arts, our black belts. However, of all the sports we did together, golf was our most treasured as we played it into adulthood. Hold on a second. My dad introduced me to the sport at age 8 at Herman Park, and the rest was history. We dove headfirst into the sport, and we were hooked. As a young boy, Saturdays were for baseball, and Sundays we played 18. As we improved, we sought the advice of renowned swing instructor Kevin Kurt for many years, and are grateful to him for our low scores and good memories. Our passion for golf took us across the pond to St. Andrews and Carnoustie. We played many stateside spots, including Pinehurst, Torrey Pines, Xanadu, and Whistling Straits. We then grew obsessed with playing only top 100 courses and coordinated our travel schedules to be in New York multiple times a year to play Wingfoot, Quaker Ridge, Friars Head, and Garden City. Often walking 36 holes in a day while I sipped on cocktails and he drank Powerade Zero. My dad made me promise to carry on the tradition of golf with my kids when he could no longer participate. It's been a joy to play with my sons, where my dad and I spent our Sundays. For the last 39 years, my dad was a polarizing figure in my life, a real hero and role model. With his passing, he has left our family with the greatest gift, the honor of his name. For that, we are forever grateful.
And I'd like to invite Jay Androphy, Joel's brother, to share his words.
Well, looking around the room, you all knew Joel in adulthood. I've spent the better part of the last year reflecting on our formative years. Joel was 10 when I was born. My earliest memories of him were as a teenager. As you can imagine, he loved roughhousing, boxing, yes, with gloves, wrestling, or the neighborhood basketball games, which usually ended with ice packs and a bloody nose or two. What he lacked in height, he made up with in determination and lots of body contact to make a statement. I remember him being 16 and getting a license and feeling liberated from his parents' annoying little brother with his Chevy Vega. I was 6 and learned the meaning of sibling rivalry when he felt that Gary's car was nicer than his. The day he got his car, I remember he was headed to Dairy Queen with Elliot, who's here, and his other buddy, Morris. Morris didn't have an annoying little brother like the other guys, and I remember him asking me to hop in the car to go with them. It was my first road trip. A most special time for me was when I was 8 and Joel was 18. Our mother decided that it was reasonable to leave me in the care of Joel for a week. Our grandmother was staying with us, but I had no doubt who was in charge of the house. There I was, third grade, playing hooky to go to Ham and Acid during the week, in the daytime, and going to see R-rated movies at 9 p.m. as an 8-year-old. We had Baco's Pizza and Frankie's hot dogs for dinner every night. That year, I got my first baseball glove, my first real baseball glove. My mom had Joel take me to Beaner's Sporting Shop, where I tried on every mitt that they had. They were all fine to me, but Joel wanted me to have the best fitting glove. When we finally got home, he taught me how to oil a glove, wrap it with a ball in it, and twine to form a pocket where you want it, a process that's all done by machine now. It felt like a lot of work, but it was a great bonding experience. We played catch every day for months after that in the backyard. There were a few broken windows, a few dented cars, and I still have the glove and had many catches with my kids with it over the years. Gary, Joel, and Jay were 3 sons out of the same mold. We had a mother who drove us to excel in school. Joel used to refer to her as the great academic motivator. We were all pushed to the limit. As the children of immigrant parents, she wanted us to take advantage of every opportunity to succeed in life. There were no accolades or effort grades for just trying. There was never a plan B. And I think that you could all see that in Joel. Joel loved sports, tennis more than any other. He shared a story with my best friend from growing up in the past few years, who is also a lawyer, and they shared work together. But Joel was telling them that Lenny Margolis, my friend's father, who was one of the best tennis players in the area, saw him practicing with his freshman team, and they were horsing around. And Lenny told him that the matches may be for fun, but practice is work. Every shot needs to make you better. Learn your weaknesses, make them your strengths. You can't have any blind spots in tennis or life. Otherwise, you'll lose all your matches and embarrass yourself. Apparently, 30 years later, Joel spoke about how meaningful that was and how that helped mold him in life. None of this probably surprises any of you. Being pushed academically, teaching ourselves to make our weaknesses our strengths, never having blind spots is just how we were raised. It's what molded him personally and professionally. We'll miss him. And I hope you enjoyed hearing a little bit about the person and how he became that person. I keep 3 things in the side drawer of my desk at home. The rubles that our grandfather Morris brought over in his pocket when he took the boat from Russia to America in 1917 so his descendants could lead a better life, never dreaming that we would lead the life that we have lived here. I have a postcard from my brother Gary from college asking me how I like kindergarten. They have the baseball glove that Joel took me to get. We had daily catches with. And I keep these in my drawer. I look at them every day. So it was unfortunate to lose both of them this year, but thank you very much.
I'd like to invite Elliot Androphy, Joel's cousin, to remember him.
Wow. Well, I'm a physician and a research scientist, and I've spoken across the country and across the world hundreds of times. But this is the hardest talk I've ever given. And I've got to read it. I never read talks, but to get through this, it's painful to share with you my love and admiration for my beloved cousin, Joel. We grew up together. Our fathers, who you've heard about today, were partners in the appliance and furniture business. He lived 1 block away, and we shared homes and parents. I still remember his phone number, 653-6009. We went to elementary school and high school together and celebrated our joint bar mitzvah on June 4th, 1966, which was a lot of fun because we can get the whole family together. I kept in contact with him throughout college, and even when he moved to Houston, we would talk by phone. And you have to remember that there weren't iPhones back then, so you had to pay, you had to pay for a long-distance call. But thank goodness I was working at the VA, and hopefully nobody reports this. I think the statute of limitations is long past. But I used to call them routinely from the VA, and that's how we would do it. I hope I don't get. And so we talked often, and even over the more recently, as our families grew, I think we communicated even more and more by email and text messaging. Joel wasn't great with a lot of words. Sometimes it was letters, but we texted frequently. So I'd like to share with you briefly my own personal perspective on Joel's attributes. As you've heard, Joel was an athletic child. He was strong and he was fast. He was an avid swimmer and a great tennis player. He was ambidextrous. He could use both hands. It was great. I think his passion for golf came later. We occasionally golf with our fathers, and sometimes with our friends, and just by ourselves. Occasionally, I'd be bullied. Joel was my cousin. He was 6 months older than me, but he was my protector and my defender, and literally would get into fights to protect me. I mention this because I think this was at Joel's core, his soul, his nefesh. This was his DNA, to defend and protect. I believe that's why he became a lawyer and not a doctor, like his older brother Gary, who you've heard about, of blessed memory, and his brother Jay, who just gave such a moving talk about his life with Joel. Joel's calling to law was to protect the innocent, as we've heard today, and understand and protect the innocent and the underserved and the needy, and to stop those who would do harm to others. He was brilliant, compassionate, fair, and yes, intense. I remember meeting a lawyer from Houston at Robin's wedding some years ago back in San Diego. And I was so impressed because this lawyer told me how much she respected and admired Joel, even though she was from a competing law firm. That spoke volumes about Joel. And speaking of volumes, he used his intelligence and his immense energies to teach. He authored that huge volume on white-collar crime, it's amazing, and a book on qui tam, or whistleblower law, not to make money, but to share his experience and his ideas and his concepts with others. As you've heard, he appeared on local and even national TV to teach, to offer legal insights to the community. He was a leader holding positions in the Houston and Texas Bar Association. Another descriptor for Joel would be the loyal friend. For the past decade, we get together with our classmates from 50 years ago, classmates from elementary school and high school, ostensibly to play golf, but really it was because of the camaraderie that we felt. Joel contacted and dined with teachers from our high school and told them how much he appreciated what they did for us. Who does that? Who reaches out to people from decades ago, their mentors, to tell them how much they appreciated them in molding their education and their success? It was also to see how he valued and befriended people. It could be a person at a desk, a maitre d', a salesman, a golf attendant, a colleague. It was with hugs and fist bumps and how are you doing and how's your family, and there was smiles and joy. Each person no matter what their circumstances, knew that he cared about them. Joel was generous and charitable. We talk about his pro bono work for child advocacy in the underserved community of the Fifth Ward, or the family whose art legacy was stolen by the Nazis and acquired by museums. In Cabo, it was heartwarming to see Joel and Cheryl spend vacation time purchasing and collecting gifts for the local Mexican orphanage, and then they deliver these so that those children would have a better Christmas holiday. I think Joel was generous in his addiction to art. His home is just loaded with fascinating objects he and Cheryl collected. Androphy's aren't renowned for artistic talents. No, that's not us. But I think we support artists through our purchases. And I think that's what Joel did. He befriended the artists, he admired them, he admired their creativity, and with his financial support allowed them to continue. 2 years ago, Joel and I were Cabo, and I saw this big 8-foot metal dinosaur outside an art store. And Joel's eyes lit up, and he was fascinated and said, "This is what my grandkids would love it." And so he spoke at length to the shop owner, learned about his background, and he didn't, surprisingly, try to whittle down the price. He could have negotiated. Who's going to buy a giant dinosaur? That wasn't Joel's nefesh. That wasn't the sort of way he acted. And he paid the asking price, and he sealed another friendship. Of course, Joel adored his family. We've heard that. It's been validated and testified to today. He always talked about his grandchildren and would email me pictures of them with Gramps. And Joel especially wanted to ensure that our families knew each other and experiences the closeness we had. He wanted to bring my 6-year-old grandson, whose father died 40 years ago, down to Cabo or Houston, and Joel wanted to teach him how to golf and play with his grandchildren. Unfortunately, COVID interrupted that for now, but we will do that. I spent a lot of time with Joel over the past 2 years. We talked about many issues that one can only do with someone you love and trust and respect. We talked about life, our goals, our work, our families, our finances, our aspirations, and more recently, as we aged, about retirement. Joel wasn't going to do that for many more years. He loved his profession, and he gave it everything, and he completely enjoyed working with his colleagues and helping people. That was his mission. He did want to slow down a little bit so that he can spend more time with his beloved Cheryl and his children and his wonderful grandchildren, Landon, Bo, Jaden, and Cooper. Joel was my cousin, more like my brother and best friend. You know when you have a security question and ask who's your best friend and you have to think of somebody? I always enter Joel. When he started developing symptoms and it became apparent he needed to see a neurologist, I contacted a renowned colleague at my university who offered to examine him as soon as Joel could come to Indianapolis. This neurologist diagnosed ALS and told Joel the dreadful prognosis. We struggled with that awful report. Joel was thoughtful, but not emotional. He said he was going to fight, and he wanted to spend even just a few more good years with Cheryl, Robin, Daniel, Chris, Angela, and especially his grandchildren. Quietly, though, he turned to me in the car as we were driving from that awful appointment that day, and seeing how I was taking the news, he said to me, "It's okay. I've been lucky to have had 70 wonderful years. Don't worry, Elliot. I'll be okay. A few more wonderful years would be great, but I know I've had a great life." He lived his all. He gave it all throughout his short life. He lived it to the fullest. Joel, we'll all miss you. You are my hero, my defender, my best friend, teacher, advocate for me, and it's wonderful to see many others. I am so honored to have been part of your life and so proud and grateful for all you did to make God's world better. His life was truly our blessing.
I'd like to invite Lynn Liberato, a friend in law, to share her words.
If you ever doubted Joel's intensity, you never had lunch with him at Mai's Vietnamese restaurant. Inevitably, the server would place in front of Joel a giant bowl of plain steamed broccoli and nothing else. You see, 28 years ago, Joel decided he was going to get into shape. From then on, it was broccoli for lunch and swimming 2 to 3 miles 5 days a week. Or maybe he would switch to eating a bowl of fruit and paddling a kayak for miles. Tackling fitness is but one example of his level of intensity, or, as Reverend Clements might say, being a pit bull. But this intensity manifested itself in so many good ways, as we have heard. It meant that Joel was a force of nature who packed more into one life than seems possible. Joel was a superstar lawyer and a bar leader, so let me start there in offering additional evidence of the level of his intensity. Joel was relentless in his concern for his clients and getting it right. There are many lawyers here, Larry Finder, who have picked up the phone and heard something to this effect. Hey, this is Joel. Let me ask you a question about this case I have. He could be calling from Cabo, La Jolla, or Travis Street. He was fearless in taking on tough cases, the government, and an occasional hostile judge. He was known equally for his underlying integrity as he was for his hard-charging advocacy. He did what was right, both in and out of the courtroom. As editor of the Houston Lawyer magazine, he published articles on legal issues faced by those with AIDS. In other issues, he covered LGBTQ issues. This was 30 years ago. Think about that. Then, as you have heard, when he saw Reverend Clements' presentation about an injustice in the Fifth Ward, he established a pro bono program within his firm to represent young offenders for free. Now, how he handled his membership on bar committees also demonstrates the level of his intensity. He did not merely join them, he led them. For example, he rose to become chair of the Houston Volunteer Lawyers. He became editor of both publications for the Houston Bar and the State Bar of Texas, and he was elected president of the Federal Bar Association. He wasn't content to write a mere 70 legal articles and give 125 presentations. He authored 2 major treatises, one with 6 volumes. Joel also had a wicked sense of humor. In his editor's column, he wrote about an article appearing in the Houston Lawyer, the magazine for the Houston Bar. The article concerned forwarding attorney's fees in bankruptcy cases. Joel wrote, "As I understand it, bankruptcy attorneys have enough problems getting paid without trying to collect for someone else." In another column, he answered criticism about how some lawyers were not happy with an article on how lawyers dress. Joel's response: "Some lawyers were insulted, some felt we wasted our money, and some were just interested in our female models." This was, of course, in the early 90s, but I digress. As we've heard from every speaker, Joel was intense about his beautiful family. He was not just a supportive dad. He was a fixture in the bleachers at Robin's volleyball games. and gymnastics tournaments and at Daniel's soccer and baseball games. In fact, and Daniel alluded to this, he earned a black belt when doing taekwondo along with his kids. As one half of a power couple, Joel was matched by Cheryl. He could never have achieved success without her. They supported each other. For example, she co-chaired with him, or he co-chaired with her, is the better way of putting it, the biggest fundraiser for child advocates. And they did that for 10 years running. All the while, she volunteered in the trenches for the organization where she served as a court-appointed advocate for scores of abused children. She also was the president of the Lamar High School PTA. Joel's intense love for his family will endure. For the rest of their lives, Cheryl, Daniel, Robin, Chris, Angela, Jaden, Cooper, Landon, and Bo will not only have their memories, but a written record. And part of that written record is what many of you have provided. They have received hundreds of passionate emails, cards, and letters that you have sent to Cheryl and Joel as word of his illness spread to the different groups that they touched. These writings offer examples of how Joel was prolific, funny, and really smart. That he had a beautiful mind, spirit, and heart. They recognized that Joel was what lawyers, fathers, husbands, indeed all people should aspire to. We now face the enormity of his loss to his family and to our community, to our profession, and to ourselves. Nonetheless, I firmly believe Joel Androphy will continue to help us, guide us, and inspire us. In the words of the song that was written about him that I believe you'll hear in a few minutes, Joel, we will carry you with us wherever we are, and I love you. Thank you.
And the time has come to call on David Berg to share words about his friend and partner.
Reverend Clemens, where are you, sir? I just want to say, I know how the guy felt who followed Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. What beautiful, beautiful thoughts we've heard today about Joel. I know that you've read his biography. I know that you've read the notes that are here in the program today. I learned things about Joel I didn't know, because something that hasn't been commented on today is that among his greatest qualities, that in light of his accomplishments as a philanthropist, as a lawyer, as a husband, a father, a grandfather, as just a mensch, was his humility. It was astonishing. Joel was not a person who would brag about what he had done, and he had done so much. You've heard about so much of what he's done today that I won't take a lot of time to recount all of that. But I will tell you what it was like to be Joel's friend, his confidant, and his partner for 40 years. 43 years ago, I got a call from Judge Norman Black. Some of you remember from this congregation, remember Norman Black. And he said, I've got a former clerk of mine, and the clerk does not love where he's working right now. Would you talk to him? Well, I talked to Joel, and I was impressed. What commitment, what decency, And as I could tell you 10 times over, what loyalty. Cousin Elliot, he would have beat up people for me too. Joel and I had a rule: we did not like tall men. That's not funny. That's not. My son was an exception. He's about 6 feet tall, and he's on thin ice too. Joel and I lived through the golden age of trial law. It was a time when we would finish one trial and go right into another one. And in my early days, I practiced criminal law. And I will share with you an anecdote that Joel did not find funny. We had a misdemeanor case of some kind. I don't remember what it was, but I remember it was serious. And we walked into the courtroom. Joel was, I think, had been with the firm for a month. And he said, they brought the jury in, and he said, let's get going, let's do this. And I walked out of the courtroom. And he tried the case, had no idea what I was going to do to him, and he won the case. That was a hallmark. That was a beginning point. As he said, I dropped him in the grease, and I was happy to do so. In our faith, the way I understand it, there is no theological sanctuary. I was not taught there's a heaven or hell, but deeds here on earth are what matter. And oh my God, all the things Joel did. Guys, he loved you so much. We had a conversation one day, and not in the pejorative way. He said, she's my princess. And oh, he loved his son and his daughter and his grandchildren. And I swear to God, if he had sent me one more picture of a 4-year-old with a putter, I was going to block him. Everything we did with great purpose. We built a law firm that was ranked not for 2 years, but ever since the top tiers were named, our firm was one of them. Bergen Androphy meant something. It was a principled law firm. It still is. 30 years ago, and I heard some mention of this, Joel came to me and said, I've got a case I've got to try, and it involved a man with AIDS. And I think he had died by the time of trial, and his keeper, his helper rather, stole his Social Security checks. And between Joel and me, there was no can I, may I. We just did, and understood that the other would approve wholeheartedly, especially of charitable work, of pro bono work, of something beyond the ordinary. And he won that case. He got a $175,000 verdict that he'd never be able to collect, but he sought justice for the man who had AIDS. I grew up at Emmanuel across town, and it says, and this was Justice Ginsburg's favorite quote from Micah. You find it, Reverend Clemens, to show you I'm not a theological dunce, you also find the same sentiment in the book of Matthew. Do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with thy God, and indeed Joel did just that. We were together to celebrate great times, and you always were there to congratulate us, Cheryl, and my wife, Catherine, too. 40 years with one partnership is almost unheard of these days, in days in which loyalty to one firm means very little. But the siren sound of what my uncle used to call the green poultice takes people away, and we stayed together. We were there in hard times together. We were there in good times together, and I miss him now in a time of a terrible problem right here in Houston. I would say, Joel, what the hell happened to the Astros? We talked sports, and he was a fanatic. I don't want to idealize Joel. His talents set him apart. His commitment set him apart. His generosity set him apart. His temper set him apart. He was generous of spirit. When I turned 60, or 65, something like that, I began writing books myself. Never once did he say, "You've got to do more for the firm." Never once did he say, "I'm carrying the load myself." I was always there for him and he for me. And Joel, I can't emphasize enough how important his treatises are in the world of lawyers. I'm also so deeply moved, and the thing I really love most, and Reverend, I'm going to give you some background on what happened with his pro bono work in the Fifth Ward. Our firm brought Michelle Alexander to Houston to speak before the Progressive Forum, and she had written a book about racial injustice in the criminal justice system. And of course, at 81, I have no idea what the title of the book is. Joel came to listen to her, and she had documented the racist nature of the criminal justice system, and oh, it was, and is at some level, but much better now than when I grew up. When I came into the law, Judge Sam Davis, you don't remember him. Most judges have a beautiful length of marble behind their bench. He had a Confederate flag behind his bench. And oh, he would mistreat people, and I told Joel about that. And when Joel read the book and saw in black and white, if you will, the injustice in our criminal justice system, he became energized in ways that would manifest itself in ways that only maybe his family and I can appreciate. He would upbraid judges in elevators and say, "How are you treating black folks in your courtroom?" And that's what gave birth to this wonderful pro bono program, where Joel would intervene in cases where young black kids, especially, underprivileged kids who got in trouble in school and were going to go into the criminal justice system, which is how the system begins to grab hold of especially young black men between 18 and 22. And we have a runaway child here. And I don't want to go on and on about this, but his philanthropy, his pro bono work was wonderful. And Joel, I just want to say to you, I do not appreciate having 9 pro bono cases dumped on me. And by the way, this comes out of his capital account, not mine. I've come to know Cheryl better than I ever did in this last year and a half of Joel's life. What a struggle she has gone through, how beautifully she has handled it, and how she would say to him, "I'm the boss now." He was a tough guy. I remember he had some sort of complicated procedure on his knee one morning and came to work that afternoon. He was the Iron Man of our firm. He was part of the glue that held it all together. And I'm going to say something to you. I want you to the family especially. Someone has already mentioned this, but the greatest treasure he left you was a trail of good deeds and a good name. What more could you want? When we drafted our succession plan at the firm, it wasn't supposed to happen this way. Joel was so concerned that the firm make sure that Catherine, my wife, was taken care of. And as it happens, death out of order is so hard to take. No one escapes this life, though, with some measure of tragedy. No one. And what I beg you to do, don't let the tragedy of his death obscure the beauty of his life, because it was beautiful. And so are you. At times like this, I have no magic words. I have a friend, a doctor friend, who says, I wish I could give you a pill and let you wake up in 6 months when you're tired of being tired. And the first thing you think of that morning is not Joel. But his memory will always be with us. And I turn to Edna St. Vincent Millay. This has brought me great comfort as I've had losses. I am not resigned, she says, to the shutting away of loving hearts in the hard ground. So it is, and so it will be, for so it has been. Time out of mind. Into the darkness they go, the wise and the lovely, crowned with lilies and with laurel they go, but I am not resigned. And I'm not resigned. I'll do everything I can to perpetuate his memory. Bergen Androphy is going to go forward. That has been an aim of mine. And Joel's name and mine will be linked for as long as that firm exists. I've gone on at great length. I can't speak from notes. I wanted to speak from my heart. He was my friend. He was my confidant. And I will miss the moments we talked long distance of late, talked at great length about the goals of our firm, about the people who were with us, about caring for the people who were with us and of the people we represented. And I'll leave you with this. Every year, on a certain date, Joel would forward to me a phone call message that was left. And it was from a man he had represented and won his criminal case, serious criminal case. Judge Hughes mentioned it the other day. I was in his court, or last year. Judge Hughes said, and he walked that man right out of here. He was as surprised as that man and Joel. And the man said, thank you for my life. Thank you for the quality of my life. And I say the same to Joel. Thank you for the quality that you brought to our firm and to our friendship.
There is so much still to say, and so little more that needs to be said. But let me just say this. Joel fulfilled his duty as a man, a husband, a father, a grandfather, a brother, a cousin, a partner, and a man of faith. He left nothing undone, including the lessons he taught and he modeled, and the ways we know he would insist we continue to choose life every day. We won't forget his voice or his laughter. We won't let his achievements fade in front of others, and we won't deny the world what it deserves just because Joel is gone. His legacy remains as a beacon for all to follow into a future filled with justice, compassion, and peace. Zichrono livracha. May the memory of our dearest Joel Androphy be a source of strength and blessing to us now and always. Amen. And I'm delighted that Rabbi Steve Gross is here to share a special song that he will introduce and share with all of us. My friend Steve.
It's not very conventional to break out a guitar at a funeral, but as we've heard, Joel was not a very conventional person. Joel, as we all have heard and know, leaves a legacy for all of us to embrace and to live through the quality of our lives. The words of this song were written for Joel. The songwriter, his name is Darrell Smith, interviewed the family and wove all of the themes of his life, as we've heard them this morning, into this powerful, beautiful song. They're actually written on the back of the cards that we have, and at the end, I invite everybody to lend voice to the chorus. Sharp-dressed man, socks and shoes, all the colors under the sun. Hard-ass man with the wicked smile, get work till the job is done. Cared for your health and your family, hurry, beloved faith ward. Your soul was so open, but you rarely showed your cards with your beautiful mind, your spirit and your heart. We carry you with us wherever we are. And the way that you loved, you helped us see the stars. Yes, we carry you with us wherever we are. Wherever we are. You work so hard, you give so much, never wanted anything in return. Never looked for the spotlight, but the fire inside you burned. You gave us strength to stand strong, respectful we are inside. Showed us how to speak our mind, walk with our head held high, with your beautiful mind, your spirit and your heart. We carry you with us wherever you are. And the way that you love, has helped us see the stars. Yes, we carry you with us wherever you are, wherever we are. And there's 4 little boys that love you for exactly who you are. Heart of gold, a drive for life. You are a superstar with your beautiful mind, your spirit and your heart. We will carry you with us wherever we are. And the way that you love, you help us see the stars. Yes, we carry you with us wherever we are. Every voice, let's try this. Beautiful mind, your spirit and your heart. We will carry you with us wherever we are. And the way that you love, you helped us see the stars. We will carry you with us wherever we are. Wherever we are.
You give us loved ones, and you make them the strength of our life, the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft on a lonelier way, but you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you the stricken look for comfort and the sorrow-laden for consolation. God, we see life as through windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures and the soul endures as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern in a world that is the dwelling place of your love and your glory. We continue with El Molei Rachamim, a prayer of God's compassion. Please rise.
El Molei Rachamim, Shochein b'meromim, Hamitzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechinah. Im kedoshim utorim kezar harakia mazirim et nishmat Yoel ben Elazar Tovia HaKohen shehalach le'olamo. Val harachamim yastirehu b'seter kenafav le'olamim. Bitror rachayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato. V'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to our dear Joel Androphy, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. Interment follows immediately at Beth Israel Memorial Garden on Antoine for those who will be following in procession. When we exit the sanctuary, please return to your cars, and you'll be given instructions as we make our way to the cemetery. Following our time in the cemetery, we can look ahead to this evening at 6 p.m. when we'll join here in the sanctuary for a Shiva Minyan, a brief evening service to memorialize the name of our beloved, followed by a meal of condolence, a time to share and speak and lift up memories as we comfort the family and comfort each other. And now please remain in your places for just a moment so the cantor and I may escort our beloved from the sanctuary, followed by the family as we make our way to the cars. This concludes our service.